Marquise Goodwin, there he goes. 84-yard touchdown hookup. He got by Darrelle Revis.
Pittsburgh police say Jets cornerback Darrelle Revis has been charged for his alleged involvement in a street altercation.
It doesn't sound good. It's not a good look. Athletes are confronted with these types of situations all the time.
He's never been in trouble. Why all of a sudden would he do something now?
As a public figure, as an athlete, you have to understand that when you leave the house, you put yourself in a position to be a part of the public consumption.
There's nothing about baseball that needs to be fixed. We're suggesting that we change the strike zone, reasonable limits in the replay system. We want a well-paced game. Dead time changes, there's probably not one that you can mention that I wouldn't be in favor of.
Welcome to Outside the Lines. I'm Ryan Smith filling in for Bob Lee. Bill Parcells used to say nothing good happens after midnight. It seems New York Jet Darrelle Revis learned that firsthand over the weekend. The four-time All-Pro got into a scuffle with a group of men near this bar on Pittsburgh's popular South Side. Two men, ages 22 and 21, telling police they were cold-cocked during an altercation with the 31-year-old Revis, sending them both to the hospital, one with a broken bone in his face. Now, witnesses say the men were unconscious for 10 minutes after the altercation. Police on Thursday charging the football star with 4 felonies, 2 felony counts of aggravated assault, 1 felony count of each of robbery and conspiracy, and a misdemeanor count of terroristic threats. So what really happened? Well, it depends on who you believe. According to the criminal complaint, as obtained by Pittsburgh station WTAE, one of the men approached Revis asking if he was, in fact, Darrelle Revis. Now, the man continued to question the New York Jet, who responded by telling him to get out of his face. Then the alleged victim pulled out his cell phone, recording Revis as he walked away. "Why are you following me?" asked Revis several times before that video stops, the criminal complaint says. And that's when the he said begins. Witnesses say Revis grabbed the phone, attempting to delete the video, and then threw it into the street. Another man came to Revis's defense, and after punches were allegedly thrown, the alleged victims say they only remember waking up to talk to police. But Revis's lawyer, Blaine Jones, says the men jumped Revis, landing the All-Pro in the hospital.
As far as I'm concerned, Darrelle Revis's credibility is stellar. It's second to none. He's never been in trouble. Why all of a sudden would he do something now? He was not the aggressor that night. He was 1,000% the victim. He tried to retreat. He did everything in his power to try to get this situation to die down, to de-escalate the situation that the other group started. Darrelle was by himself when he was physically assaulted by one of the men. And unfortunately, at what point in time do you say enough is enough?
Now, a Jet spokesman says they're aware of the incident, and team officials, including head coach Todd Bowles, spoke with the star. The NFL says they're looking into the matter. So for the latest on Revis's arrest, we turn to Coley Harvey in Pittsburgh. Coley, what is the latest? What's happening right now?
Well, right now, where we're standing outside of the Pittsburgh police headquarters. This is one of the main police precincts here in town on the north side of town, which is, of course, away from the south side, which is where the incident in question took place. At this point, we're waiting on Darrelle Revis to turn himself in. We're not clear if he'll turn himself in through these doors here behind me at this particular precinct. We've been told by police all over the city that he could actually turn himself in to any precinct across town. So it even could be close to the south side. But this is kind of the location that we think it will happen. And at some point it will happen today. I have spoken with Blaine Jones and myself. It's been a few hours, but he told me that at some point within the next 24 to 48 hours that he expected his client to turn himself in, to walk into some doors just like the ones behind me, and then to begin that process of getting physically booked and fingerprinted and that kind of deal. From there, we'll see what happens. But again, the charges are serious. But as even one police spokesperson who I talked to mentioned, this isn't a major crime. And so with that being said, there's another reason why this may not necessarily be the precinct that he will be brought. He could go to another precinct around town. Okay, so at some point today, he will be walking into some precinct, or possibly within the next couple days, to at least answer to some of these charges, or at least face the police. Coley, thank you so much, live in Pittsburgh. We appreciate it. Thank you. Now, I want to bring in Mark Schlereth, because we talk about this. Athletes are used to having situations like this, Mark,
where fans are after them. They want to get a piece of them. It seems like something like this happened here. We don't know everything for sure, but let's assume these fans came up to Darrelle Revis. He didn't like that they were recording. What's an athlete to do in that kind of situation?
I mean, ultimately, in this day and age, I think you have to walk away from the situation, or at least try to walk away. And that's what is so perplexing to me, because this is completely out of character of the Darrelle Revis I know. And I've been around him in several social settings, both up close and from a distance, and I have seen him react with people, and I have never seen him be anything less than a gentleman in all these situations. So this, to me, reeks of, that you talked about the he said, but this reeks to me of something is not right here. The other thing, I really find it hard to believe that Darrelle Revis is going to knock two guys out and they're going to be unconscious for 10 minutes up until the police show up. That's just not, those are things to me that are movies, that happen in movies that don't happen in real life.
Really doesn't add up for you.
That does not add up for me. So it's completely out of character of the man I know that is Darrelle Revis. Now, you deal with it all the time. You see people in a restaurant trying to take a picture of you or trying to take a video of you. Oftentimes, and I've seen that happen, it's happened to me, where I'll say, hey, man, if you want to take a picture, let's take a picture together. You don't have to do it in secret. Let's just do that. But I think as an athlete, it's a cautionary tale. And I think one of the things you have to be able to take from this is the good ones learn from others' mistakes. The great ones, or the good ones learn from their own mistakes. The great ones learn from others' mistakes. I think you have to look at the situation and say, you know what, I have to have a plan for if this happens to me, how I'm going to get out of that situation, how I'm going to walk away without violence occurring. And that's got to be something that you've got to think about before you go out.
A lot of people talk about the idea that when an athlete or somebody famous or you're walking out in public, that you're in the public eye in the first place, therefore you're opened up to the public, therefore it's on you to sort of always take a step back and cooperate. Again, we do not know what happened in this situation.
Yes.
But is that how you look at athletes? It's as if they have to cooperate every single time when somebody's asking for a picture, even recording them on a phone?
Yeah,
I know that would make me stop and say, hey, wait a second.
Right, but that's part of what you've gotten yourself into, and it's a different world than when I grew up in the National Football League. There were no camera phones.
Yeah.
So there's a different world going on right now, but you have to be aware of the world that you've agreed to be a part of. And the bottom line is this. If you want to go out and you want to have a good time and you want to do those things, you have to understand that that's the world you live in, and those are the rules that you're going to have to adhere to. And so if you want to avoid that, then don't put yourself in those situations. Don't be out in public. Or if you're out in public, make sure you have some type of security that will take care of that for you.
Wow, but the idea that you have to walk out with security, Darrelle Revis, anywhere he goes, even his hometown, has to walk around.
Which I think is ridiculous, because I think the majority of guys that are celebrity, that are football players, don't think of themselves that way. They think of themselves as the guy that was in college, that was regular, that was having fun. And I think at times, that's part of celebrity. You become a prisoner of your own celebrity. And the more you get, the more a prisoner you seem to be. So it's part of the deal that you're going to have to contend with when you've reached a certain status of celebrity in this society. And it's unfortunate, but it is the way it is.
Now, your son Daniel, he's a major leaguer. He's in camp right now. Have you ever talked to him about this kind of situation, about what to do when guys walk up to you, and what do you say?
Yeah, we have these conversations all the time. And, he spent 4 years in the big leagues. He's trying to make his way back to the big leagues right now. But, I always try to treat people with grace. I always say, we've got, as men, we've got this, we've been sold this bill of goods that's not right. And that bill of goods is what strength is. And true strength comes with grace and humility and love and kindness. And, that's the way I'm wired. So I try to help my son be wired the same way. You've got to treat people with grace. You've got to treat people with humility and kindness, because it's, you've been given a gift. And that gift is you've been blessed to be left-handed and to throw in the mid-90s. And you've got to understand that you did nothing to earn that. That was given to you. And so when you have a gift, I think you have to be gracious and you have to accept that. Hard to do at some point. Some guys get enamored with their own success, and that's a big issue. But again, I go back to this, to me, is completely out of character of the Darrelle Revis that I've been around. And I've been around several different occasions in several social settings. Yeah. And like I said, he's treated people with nothing but kindness.
How do you think, and again, very early stages right now, the NFL says they're looking into this. How do you think they're going to view all of this at this point? I know they're going to gather information, but is it one of these situations where you look at it and say, well, just because he was arrested, that's going to be a problem, even if it wasn't his fault?
No, you know what? I think for the most part, you give the guy the benefit of the doubt. You look at his past history as an indicator of who he is going forward, and you look at it as an unfortunate situation that he got himself into. And I think for the most part, NFL clubs, the Jets included, will give him the benefit of the doubt based on the character that he's displayed throughout the course of his career.
Yeah, it looks like they're doing that already. Speaking to him, not commenting the NFL again, saying they're looking into this matter. Right. ESPN's Mark Schlereth. Mark, great to see you.
Good to be with you, Ryan. Thank you.
All right, let's turn now to some breaking news. A judge has ordered former Michigan State University and USA gymnast sports doctor to stand trial on sexual assault charges. The judge issued his ruling at the conclusion of a hearing today in which a 25-year-old woman testified that she was repeatedly molested as a child by Dr. Larry Nassar. Now, separately, Nassar faces child porn charges and is being sued by dozens of women and girls who say he sexually assaulted them while they sought treatment over roughly a 20-year period. Now, MLB players are in camp, but will the game they play be changed dramatically? The latest ideas from Commissioner Rob Manfred is coming up. With the last of the position players do at camp today, the MLB season is just around the corner. But does the grand old game need some tweaking? You see, baseball is looking to get younger and faster. The average fan, age 53, topping both the NFL's average fan age of 47 and the NBA at 37. And the average length of an MLB game jumped to 3 hours last season. So how does baseball bring the magic of America's pastime back to the young, speed-hungry sports fan? Commissioner Rob Manfred has been looking into game changes, rankling some baseball purists, but he says he's not looking to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
It's important for us to say there's nothing about baseball that needs to be fixed.
ESPN senior writer Jason Stark, who has full coverage of what the commissioner wants to do, posted right now on ESPN.com. Okay, Jason, so the commissioner says that things are pretty good all around. Are they?
Well, Ryan, Rob Manfred keeps saying that there's nothing about the game that needs to be fixed. So people keep asking him, well, what are you trying to fix it for? But I don't think that's exactly what he thinks he's doing. To me, one of the worst things about baseball is all the people who will tell you, well, that's how we did things in 1928. Rob Manfred really doesn't care how things were done in 1928. He needs to be mindful of that. But he's trying to look over the horizon and move the game forward. And I just don't understand why that's a bad thing.
The purists, my friend, the purists want it to be 1928. Right. But I will say this. The NFL is still deciding what a catch is. The MLB, the question is always, what is a strike? So take a listen to what he says about what a strike zone is.
And the theory is that the pitch below the knee is being called a strike more frequently, that particular pitch is hard to hit, and that forcing pitchers up in the zone would produce more action.
Jason, how do you think that goes over with the players?
I can tell you exactly how it's going to go over with the players. Half of them are going to love this idea. That would be the hitters. Half of them are going to hate this idea. That would be the pitchers. So, my guess is that this is not going to happen for this year. You get games starting in less than a week. But it's really an interesting debate whether it would even help. They look at the fact that the strike zone has been creeping downward by 2 to 3 inches over the last 5 years, even though the rule book hasn't changed in 20 years. And those pitches down there in that bottom 2 to 3 inches that are now a strike, that's the unhittability zone. It's all strikeouts and ground balls. And so the theory is you get a lot more action if you raise the strike zone up. What people are worried about is you might get a lot more walks, too.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. And then the pace of play was discussed a lot. Let's talk about some of the specifics in that. Manfred talked about replay timing. Take a listen.
There are rule changes that we really aspire to address the pace of game. Maybe the best example is how long a manager gets to decide whether or not to invoke instant replay. That's dead time. We think less of that dead time is good.
Jason, how much time are we actually talking about saving with that kind of change?
That's a good question. What they would like to do is put a clock on the manager and give him 30 seconds max to challenge a call after the call is made, and give the umpires in the replay center 2 minutes max to decide whether to overturn it. But, the funny thing is that replays are taking less time than they've ever taken, and they're not even sure exactly how long it takes the average manager to challenge the average call. So, I mean, I'm guessing that in most cases you're not saving much at all, but there's nothing worse than that time where the manager's on the phone looking at his bench coach who's also on the phone, and nothing is actually happening. That's got to change.
Yeah, ordering groceries from Fresh Direct, walking around, talking to his wife. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things going on that phone. All right, let's talk about intentional walks. There's been talk about making them automatic and just letting the batter take the base.
I know it's a small thing. I am painfully aware of how infrequently it happens and how little impact it actually has on time of game, but it's dead time.
It's dead time, but here's the thing, Jason. I mean, that's part of the drama, especially in the later innings of the game. They're really going to take that away?
I think this is one that has a chance to happen. He acknowledged that that intentional walks are not happening very much. In fact, we had fewer intentional walks last year than in any season since they've been keeping track. So your actual time saving is minimal. But when people start romanticizing the 3 times a year that the pitcher heaves one over the catcher because he can't lob a ball 60 feet, or Gary Sanchez drives in the winning run on what's supposed to be an intentional walk, that stuff is fun, but it almost never happens.
Yes.
Seriously, it's 2 or 3 times a year. So he's into eliminating dead time, all shapes and sizes.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, I got to get you on this one last topic because this is one of the most important topics in baseball. A brewing battle between the Phillies and the Mets, not over a player, but over a slogan. You see the Mets and pitcher Tug McGraw used the phrase, "You gotta believe," as a theme in their season in '73. Now, McGraw would later go on to the Phillies, as you well know, and now they have that on their spring training, on their wall in spring training. Is that much ado about nothing, you think? Or does Philly own that phrase?
This is tremendous, Ryan. I mean, one reason it's tremendous is, the first week of spring training, it's hard to fill airtime and space, and they're assisting us. We appreciate that. But the other thing is, there's been this tug of war for years now over whether Tug McGraw was really a true Philly or really a true Met. And, when New Yorkers and Philadelphians fight over anything, what's more entertaining than that?
Come on, can't we all just get along? Each can have a half of them, right? Each can claim them.
In a perfect world, that's what should happen. Do we live in that world? You know Philadelphians, you know New Yorkers.
I know. Jason, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Well, time now for the week that was on Outside the Lines.
Hopefully is involved in something.
Welcome to the soap opera that is the New York Knickerbockers.
This is probably the silliest BS I've ever seen in my 30 years in the NBA.
After 6 nail-biting days, the ban of Charles Oakley is over.
He wants a public apology.
Showtime is back. The ultimate Laker taking a seat in the front office.
This is not the type of thing where Magic Johnson can just wave a wand or throw a no-look pass and fix things. They need a whole-scale infrastructure change.
Feeds it in the lane, back up, dumps and fouled.
I'll be remembered as the biggest bust in NBA history, but I can't do nothing about that.
Why did you want the number 12 carved into your skull?
It's Tom Brady's number.
Hey Logan, Tom Brady here. I just want to let you know I'm a big fan of yours. Keep fighting like you have been your whole life.
That was Tom Brady's message to Logan Schoenhardt in the midst of his battle with brain cancer. Sadly, that battle came to an end last night.
The disease might take my son, but it never broke him. Never.
Producers have a book and a movie in the works that's expected to detail Tom Brady's comeback win over the Atlanta Falcons. Casting is everything. Let's start with Brady. Who is more perfect than this guy? This story just wouldn't be complete without the coach, the man in charge, the general himself. Who could rise to that level? Oh, yeah. Just look at that photo forever. Well, it was 30 years ago, almost today, MJ taught the league how to play in the skills competition, but that's not the only reason we're celebrating his airness.
And now, insurance-minded speeches from Geico. It's a common expression, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. However, what if the horse's mouth is filled with useful insurance tools? This is the exact case with the Geico app. Yes, the app is free and therefore a gift horse. However, look inside the app and behold, emergency roadside assistance, digital ID cards, bill pay. Get the Geico app. Look it in the mouth. Get amazing services. Thank you.
NBA All-Star Weekend begins tonight in New Orleans with the Celebrity Game on ESPN. The Sixers' Jamel Hill coaches the East. Michael Smith's got the West. 7 p.m. at the Superdome. And then the Six. Michael and Jamel want you to join them. A whole host of athletes stopping by. Well, here at Outside the Lines, you know, especially during this Valentine's week, we like to bring people together and really focus on college football. Case in point, Paul Feinbaum and Coach Jim Harbaugh. On Wednesday, Paul didn't pull any punches in talking about the coach's hiring of Michael Johnson Sr., the father of highly touted junior dual threat, Michael Johnson Jr.
It may not be illegal by NCAA standards and bylaws as of this moment, but to me it's cheating. It's blatantly disregarding the spirit of the NCAA rule. We all know why he's doing it. I don't know why the media celebrates Jim Harbaugh for disregarding the NCAA rule book and doing things that, in my mind, are unethical.
Clearly, that caught the eye of the steely-eyed coach who tweeted, Pete Feinbaum, the unabashed SEC water carrier, really needs to get his facts straight. Hashtag alternative facts. Hashtag alternative names. Coach, I'm sure that Pete sends his love. And finally, it's February 17th, which means we have to say happy birthday to a couple of old goats. Of course, by goats, we mean greatest of all time. Still considered by many to be the greatest runner in NFL history, Jim Brown, who paid a visit to OTL 2 weeks ago in Houston to talk about social activism, turns 81 today. And what better way to kick off NBA All-Star festivities than to celebrate Michael Jordan's 54th birthday? Do you remember 30 years ago that? His airness, winning the first slam dunk contest during All-Star weekend. And even though the Hornets chairman can probably still dunk and still put up points in an NBA game over anybody in the league, the dunk contest is for the kids now. None of this year's participants were even born yet when Jordan appeared in All-Star Weekend's marquee event. Well, this could be, you think, the greatest sports birthday of all time. I would say the only rival here, December 30th, LeBron, Tiger, Sandy Koufax, all in the same day. So it got me thinking, what about my birthday, November 28th? Well, I've got Andrew Bogut of the Dallas Mavericks, Marc-Andrew Fleury of the Pens, right? At least he made it to a Stanley Cup. And my personal favorite, Sixto Lezcano, former big leaguer, .271 career hitter, 12 seasons, Gold Glover, arguably one of the best names in baseball history. That's something, right, fellow 1128s? Well, I just want to wish happy birthday to anyone celebrating today. We're going to see you again Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern on ESPN for another edition of Outside the Lines. Don't forget, ESPN tonight, Celebrity All-Star Game, Michael versus Jamel. That's going to be a big competition. Can imagine the bragging rights on what happens with who wins that one. Everybody and anybody will be at that game, and you can have a front row seat. And don't forget, NFL Insiders is up next. Have a great weekend.